Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started. Thank you. We've established our quorum, and we will begin with our invocation. And to give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes Father Bradley of Holy Name of Jesus Christ. He is here today as my guest. I would ask all members and guests and visitors, please rise.
Good morning, everyone. Let us pray. Merciful and gracious God, we thank you for the gift of life and for this new day. Jesus was born in a little town. He grew up under the authority of local leaders and officials who managed the majority of his daily life. Today, we lift up our local leaders. We pray for our mayor, our city council, our commissioners, police chief, judges, and all those who serve our local communities. Strengthen them with wisdom and grace for the heavy burdens they carry. May they manage their teams and projects with love and care. Keep their hearts pure and their eyes turned toward your face as they work in the best interest of your people, the people they are called to serve. Gratitude is at the heart of prayer, so today on behalf of so many members of my community, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to all of you, but especially to Council President Clark. Over the past several years being in Fishtown working with Venice, I have come to know Council President Clark as a man who listens and cares for the members of our community in countless ways. He's organized meetings with Elle and I when we had a beautiful church that sadly needed to be demolished and a school in a neighborhood that needed to be kept safe. He brought people together with police leadership and city officials to discuss public safety. He listened to the concerns of the elderly and the young. He listened, but he also cared. So in every encounter with him, I am sure I will embarrass him by saying this, but Council President Clark spoke with a clear voice of reason, and he was always a consummate gentleman. So on behalf of so many people, the people in my parish and beyond, I wish to ask God's blessing on him today and in the days ahead by using the words of Aaron, the brother of Moses. Council President Clark, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord let his face shine on you and be gracious to you. And may the Lord turn his face toward you and give you his peace and bless you now and in the days ahead. Amen.
Father, thank you. Thank you for the promo also. Appreciate it. Thank you, Father. Councilor Biddies. Thank you very much. And Father, again, thank you for your spiritual guidance this morning. We really need it. We appreciate you. Our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting on Thursday, November 16th, 2023. And the chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, November 16th, 2023 be approved.
Thank you. It has been moved and probably second that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, November 16, 2023 be approved. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it, and our journal is approved. And our next order of business is request for leave of absence. And the chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the members, there are no requests for leaves of absence today.
Chair thanks the gentleman. And we will now hear from Councilman Squilla for a motion concerning certain legislative matters that may arise during the course of today's session of council that were not listed on the calendar for today's session. Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that any of the following matters, if considered today, may be added to the agenda for this session of council and is required by law, subsequently published on the amended agenda after the consideration of those matters. Resolutions authorizing hearings, amendments to bills on first reading, the reconsideration of a bill vetoed by or recalled from the mayor, amendments to bills recalled from the mayor, resolutions taken substantive action to be voted on in this session, a motion to withdraw a bill or resolution that is not on the calendar, and a motion placing a bill or resolution on or returning a bill or resolution from the suspension calendar that is not on today's calendar. The purpose of this motion is to provide the public with notice concerning possible actions by council that arose too late to be included in the calendar that was published prior to today's session.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the legislative matters stated by Councilman Squilla may be added to the agenda for today. Should those matters arise during the course of the council session, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and motion carries. And our next order of business is communications, and I would ask the clerk to please read the messages from the mayor and any other communications that he may have in his possession today.
From the mayor to the president and members of the council of the city of Philadelphia, pursuant to sections 4604 and 2307 of the Home Rule Charter, I am today transmitting to the council the recommendation of the City Planning Commission on the following bills. Bill numbers 230698, 230713, 230714, 230716, 230741, 230742, 230743, 230744, 230745, 230764, 230765, 23766, 23769, 23770, 23771, 23772, 23774, 23775, 23777, 23778, 23779, 23780, 23781, and 23782. And I am pleased to advise you that on November 28, 2023, I signed the following bill, which was passed by council at its session on November 16, 2023, bill number 230654. And I'm hereby returning unsigned bill number 230574, passed by City Council on November 16, 2023.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. Chair at this time recognizes Councilman Thomas to recognize our guests for today.
Good morning, Council President. First of all, I want to apologize to the listening public. We did start a little late today, but I want people to know that council members was taking care of the people's business as it relates to negotiations around funds that we feel like should be allocated to things that are in need right now. But in the midst of that tension, some of the things that eased that tension was the over 63 schools that's represented here in City Council today. So today, our champion of the week is the Philly Service Project. The director, Jen Jones, as well as Ed Lack, they're here today with 63 different schools representing all 10 districts across this, councilmatic districts across the city of Philadelphia, and representing every type of school. So we have traditional neighborhood schools like Benjamin Franklin and George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. We have private schools such as Germantown Friends and Crystal Ray. We have our special admission schools here, such as Kappa and Central and Girls High. If I didn't say Girls High, I would be in trouble with somebody. We all know who. But again, over 63 schools here, and the reason that they're here and the reason that they're our champion of the week is because young people, as well as adults from each one of these schools, decided to participate in the Philly Service Project. Each school will be given an allotment of money, and the total amount of money that's going to be spent is $100,000. $100,000 will be spent on service projects led by these young people all across the city of Philadelphia, and they're basically in a challenge to see who has the best service project that has the most impact on the entire city of Philadelphia. I'm thankful that I do not have to be one of the judges to determine whose project is the best, but what I can say as a representative of this legislative body is that in our mind, all 63 schools are winners. And every young people who decided to participate in this service project and decided to make their school and their community a better place are exactly what we want to encourage as it relates to young people here in the city of Philadelphia. Look, I know we're going to take some tough votes today and make some tough decisions around some issues and conflicts that we have in the city of Philadelphia, but every once in a while it's good to feel good and hear some good news about the great work that the young people are doing. So for those who cannot see, our entire balcony is filled today with young people who have their cameras out, who's engaged in, who's ready to make Philadelphia a better place. These young people are on fire, and if you could tell from my energy, I'm on fire as a reflection of what they've done to me this morning. So all of the young people that are here, can you please stand up? Let's give these young people and their teachers a round of applause. And I just want to say thank you to all of the adults, the facilitators who made this happen. Thank you to the board members of Philly Service who are here, my good friend Rob Zarisky. And thank you to the council members who took the time to talk to young people, to take pictures with them, to engage them, to explain the legislative process, and to help them understand everything that was going on here today. I told them that today was a historic day based on what we're voting on, as well as the decisions that we're making. But the real history is the fact that they're here. And I'm sure as we begin to, I'm sure as we continue this idea of intergenerational leadership and training our replacement, I'll bet you that we inspired the next Darrell Clark and Curtis Jones and Kenyatta Johnson to run this city moving forward. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you so much, Councilman. Appreciate it. And good morning to you all. You get to see it firsthand, not filtered through whatever. We really appreciate you being here today. God bless you. Thank you. Our next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions, and I would ask Mr. Decker to please read the titles of the bills that are being offered by our members and resolution today.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson offers a privilege resolution declaring each Friday in December 2023 as Shop Black Business Friday in the city of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Council President. Today I rise to recognize and thank Visit Philadelphia for declaring each Friday in December of 2023 Shop Black Business Friday in the city of Philadelphia. Visit Philly is kicking off the holiday season with dedicated marketing efforts to support the economic growth of the local Black and brown business community here in the city of Philadelphia. We know the 2023 holiday season is a critical period for the economic health of our small business community and an opportunity for our residents and visitors alike to strengthen Philadelphia communities by shopping with Black and brown owned businesses. So today, colleagues, as we declare each Friday in December of 2023 Shop Black Business Friday, I humbly ask for your support for our small business community. And as an aside, colleagues, you know that each year I post on social media pictures of our Thanksgiving and Christmas meals wherein we patronize all Black-owned businesses here in the city of Philadelphia. So I want to give a shout out to those old and new. Miss Tootsie's, Kevin Parker, Relish, the Bonham Brothers, Ma Lessie's Chicken and Waffles, Denise's Delicacies, Barry the Bartender, Miss Dawn's Catering, and so many more. We thank you all for the service you render, not only here in City Hall, but across our city and our region. So we encourage you today, everyone under the sound of our voice, to shop Black Business Friday in the city of Philadelphia. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Hungry already. Appreciate it. Today's calendar.
Councilman Thomas offers a privilege resolution honoring and congratulating the champions of the week, the student and faculty participants of the Philly Service Award of 2023, a high school community service project competition promoting civic involvement, community engagement, and public service.
Today's calendar.
Councilman Jones offers 7 resolutions. On behalf of Council President Clark, a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Housing Authority a deed conveying fee simple title to 2342 through 48 North 27th Street, also known as 2748 North 27th Street.
Next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to 1218, 1220, 1222, and 1224 North 15th Street.
Next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Housing Authority a deed conveying fee simple title to 1517 North 33rd Street.
Next week's calendar.
And on his own behalf, Councilman Jones offers a non-privileged resolution calling on the administration to further examine the consent to search program in the city of St. Louis, Missouri, as an alternative to gun buybacks to increase the understanding of its potential impacts on the continual efforts of gun seizures in the city of Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution calling on the Pennsylvania State Senate to pass House Bill 1752 declaring Eid al-Fitr a state holiday and urging Governor Shapiro to sign this legislation.
Next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution urging the Baseball Writers of America Association to induct Philadelphia legends Jimmy Rollins and Chase Utley to the National Baseball Hall of Fame in 2024.
Next week's calendar.
And a privileged resolution recognizing the Philadelphia Housing Authority for their partnership with Zipcar to provide discounted car shares to increase economic mobility for residents of public housing within the city.
This week's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. One of those resolutions talks about what they're doing in other cities by way of voluntary searches. And when I think of that, and the reason why I put this resolution in, I think of Member Bass's slogan, "What do you do when the shooter lives with you?" And that evolved into mattress toss Fridays and things like that. And as a result of the crime summit that we conducted with St. Joe's University, one of the things was that there was an examination of gun buybacks. And all of the members in this body have done them, and we've turned in thousands of guns, and many of them were high-priority weapons. But a lot of them were grandpa's old shotgun that would not probably be used other than misused in fratricides and misfirings in people's homes. But what they're doing out in Minneapolis is they're asking people, Mom, Dad, do you know what's going on in your house, and is it okay for us to come in and toss that mattress for you? And if we find something, there will be no questions asked. And I just think that as we start to move into the new year, that we should try something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. And the borrowed might be other ways that people identify weapons within hard-hit crime communities to try to eliminate some of those weapons from that community. So stay tuned for that. Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues.
Thank you, Councilman.
Councilman Johnson offers on behalf of Council President Clark an ordinance authorizing the procurement commissioner to enter into agreements to purchase electricity, natural gas, and motor fuel for use by the city in city facilities and vehicles, including agreements that obligate payment for delivery of such energy supplies in future fiscal years.
Refer to committee.
Councilwoman Bass offers a non-privileged resolution renaming the 400 block of East Rittenhouse Street Dion Johns Dancy Way.
And that will be on next week's calendar.
There are no other bills or resolutions being offered today by the members, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our introduction of bills and resolutions. And our next order of business is reports from committee. And the chair recognizes Councilman Johnson for a report from the Committee on Rules.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Rules reports out 5 bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee on Rules, to which was referred Bill Number 230698, entitled an ordinance to approve amendments to the Temple University Master Plan in the area bounded by Norris Street, Broad Street, Montgomery Avenue, and 15th Street related to Klein College of Media and Communications and Center for the Performing and Cinematic Arts Building at 1830 North Broad Street, and Bill Number 230714, entitled an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Pratt Street, Dyer Street, and Frankfurt Avenue. And Bill Number 230716, entitled an ordinance to approve amendments to the University of Pennsylvania Master Plan in the area bounded by Walnut Street, 33rd Street, Spruce Street, and 34th Street related to the Stuart Weitzman Hall at 220 South 33rd Street. And Bill Number 230744, entitled an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Dickinson Street, 23rd Street, Cross Street, and 24th Street. And Bill Number 230745, entitled an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Wharton Street, Newkirk Street, Reed Street, and 29th Street. Respectfully reports that it's considered the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you very much. The chair again recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills numbers 230698, 230714, 230716, 230744, and 230745.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 230698, 230714, 230716, 230744, and 230745. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and these bills will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Chair now recognizes Councilman Squilla for a report from the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development report one bill with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The Committee on Commerce and Economic Development, to which is referred Bill Number 230109, entitled an ordinance adopting an amendment to Section 5 of the Articles of Incorporation of the Philadelphia Authority for Industrial Development by increasing the authority's term of existence to a date 50 years from the date of approval of Articles of Amendment by the Secretary of the Commonwealth. Respectfully reports that it's considered the same and returns the attached bill to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. The chair again recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so to permit the first reading this day of bill number 230109.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 230109. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and this bill will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Chair now recognizes Councilwoman Bass for a report from the Committee on Public Health and Human Services.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Public Health and Human Services reports one bill with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The Committee on Public Health and Human Services, to which is referred Bill Number 230649, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 6400 of the Philadelphia Code to end the unlawful deportation of non-citizen patients by hospitals to the patient's countries of origin without their consent. Respectfully reports that it's considered the same and returns the attached bill to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. The chair again recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill number 230649.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 230649. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that bill will be placed on our first reading calendar today. The chair now recognizes Councilman Jones for a report from the Committee on Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Public Safety reports three bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The Committee on Public Safety, to which is referred Bill Number 230571, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 93500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Fair Criminal Record Screening Standards to add provisions regarding the consideration of convictions that result in exoneration. And Bill Number 230699, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 95900 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Prohibition on Certain Gambling Machines and Skills Games to add additional prohibitions. and Bill Number 230700, entitled an ordinance amending Title IX of the Philadelphia Code entitled Regulation of Businesses, Trades, and Professions to add a new chapter creating penalties for trespassing in retail establishments. Respectfully reports that it's considered the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. The chair again recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you again, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit first reading of the bills number 230, 571, 230, 699, and 230-700.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 230, 571, 230, 699, 230, 700. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it, and these bills will be placed on our first reading calendar this day. Chair now recognizes Councilwoman Gautier for a report from the Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless reports out one bill with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless, to which is referred Bill Number 230776, entitled an ordinance amending Section 7202 of Title VII Housing Code of the Philadelphia Code to modify the definition of affordable housing property. Respectfully reports that it is considered the same and returns the attached bill to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. The chair again recognizes Councilwoman Gautier.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of Bill Number 230776.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor of Bill Number 230776 indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and these bills will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Councilman Johnson, did you need to be recognized? I'm sorry, I didn't see your name up. You okay? All right, thank you. That looks like that concludes our reports from committee. And we will now have the consideration of the calendar. I note that the bills just reported from committee with the suspension of the rules have been deemed to have had their first reading. All those bills will be on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. There are no additional bills on our first reading calendar, so the chair recognizes Councilman Jones for the purpose of calling up bills and resolutions on the final passage and second reading calendar today.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following resolutions and bills will be brought up from first reading to final passage calendars today. Numbers 230869, 230870, 230872, 230750, 230740, 230249, 230511, 230717, 230569, 230647, 230576, and 230510. All of the resolutions and bills are being held.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Before we proceed with our calendar, bills and resolution, we'll have our public comment session. Public comment session will go as follows. If you have not already signed up, you may sign up at the table outside of the chambers in the hallway at the desk with the Sergeant of Arms. When your name is called, you will be called in the order from which you signed up. When your name is called, you will go to the middle of the council chambers. There's a podium. There's a device on that podium with a light, and when the light turns green, it will be your time to speak. When the light turns yellow, you will have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. And when the light turns red, we'd ask that you please adhere to our guidelines and conclude your remarks. Your subject matter must be on bills that are listed on the calendar for second reading today. I want to thank you very much for your willingness to participate in your government in action. We really appreciate you coming down here. With that, Mr. Decker, would you please call the first name on the list?
Michael DeBerardinis. Commenting on 230576.
Good morning. Long time no see.
Good morning, Council President. Good
How are you?
Good morning, members of council. My name is Mike DeBerdinis, and I'm here.
A
I'm
little closer.
honored.
A little closer, miss. Okay. Got it?
This is all new to me.
Right.
It is an honor and privilege for me to be here today to support Bill number 230576 that would officially add Carol Baker Rice's name to the existing Charles Baker Recreation Center, which is named after her father. Carol, through her many decades of service as a dedicated and talented public servant, richly deserves this honor. I met Carol in 1992 when I was appointed rec commissioner by then Mayor Ed Rendell. It was a challenging time for the city, not unlike the challenges we face today. As a volunteer coach and father of 4 in the Fishtown, Kensington neighborhoods, I knew well of the critical role the rec department played in the life and lives of individuals and families across the city. But it was Carol Rice who took my understandings and skill sets to higher levels. She was generous with her wise counsel and advice. She pushed and challenged and mentored me during my tenure to lead with vision. She taught me the importance of staying close to the talented staff and to deepen their ownership and investment in the department and its works across the city. She was a master at nurturing community relations and building cross-sector partnerships with city government, across communities, with the school district, and with the private sector. She deepened my knowledge of equity and race relations and the department's important role to ensure quality programs and services were available to every citizen. The initiatives she advanced in that time period were too many to mention here today, but suffice it to say, she worked tirelessly together with the department to ensure we provided the level of quality service and programs to all Philadelphians, and especially those in under-resourced neighborhoods. As she did this with such grace, generosity, kindness, and deep faith, and a fierce determination to support neighborhoods throughout our beloved city. It was never for her own advancement, but always about the greater good. Carol's practiced intellect, love for the rec department, and its role in the life of the city makes this honor so fitting. I urge you to support this bill and to lift the name of a dedicated public service who was and still remains an inspiration to many. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
I want to thank former Commissioner DeBerdinis for coming back to the city of Philadelphia. He has taken, at least on part-times, his talents to Italy. And so for him to come back to recognize Baker Playground and the Rice family that happened to be in the 4th District is a true testament to the impact of that family. I want to also thank the AKAs who every year come to Baker Playground to clean up, paint up, fix up that rec center. I will remind my colleagues that that is the rec center where they've had basketball tournaments. So there's a pool there. It's aging. We're giving it tender love and care. We've appropriated some money actually to help bring it and give it a facelift. But more importantly, there were 7 young people or people shot at that playground a couple years back. Fortunately, none of them killed. But what we promised as a city when we went out there, did the press conference, you know how we do, we said we would not abandon this playground and that we would continue to invest in the playground and its people. And we have promises made, promises kept, and I'm thankful to this body for being a major part of that process, in particular our chair of Parks and Rec. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Next name.
The next speaker is Lorena Marshall Blake, commenting on 230576.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, President Clark and council members. My name is Lorena Marshall Blake, and I'm the former president of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Omega Omega chapter, representing our present president, Ms. Charlene Collins. I am here today to testify in support of Bill number 230576, an ordinance renaming and designating the Charles Recreation Center located at 5433 Lansdowne Avenue, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania 19131 to the Charles Baker and Carol Baker Rice Recreation Center. Carol Baker Rice is the daughter of Charles Baker and was born in April 11, 1943, 1 block south of the Charles Baker Recreation Center. She attended Heston Elementary and graduated from the Philadelphia High School for Girls. Upon graduation from Penn State University, she began her career with the Philadelphia Department of Recreation, where she served as a summer play leader and retired as a deputy director. Her continuous advocacy for our youth is demonstrated in the numerous roles she held within the Department of Recreation over her 35 years of service. In addition to her service to the families and youth of Philadelphia, she was also an active member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Omega Omega chapter. Carol had 59 years of service in the sorority and had reached the status of a golden member for her 50 years of service. Upon her retirement from the city of Philadelphia, she still remained an advocate for sustaining our local recreation centers as an outlet for the city's youth. Carol also served as the co-chairman of Omega Omega's AKA 1908 Playground Project, where we beautified a playground in West and North Philly. She was honored to spearhead the renewal of Baker Recreation Center, which culminated in the dedication of a mural of her father, Charles Baker, in November 2016. Carol remained a member of the Baker Recreation Advisory Council to ensure the community voice was heard. Carol Baker Rice was a founding member of the 1926 Foundation Incorporated, where she served as president for 9 years. During her tenure, the 1926 Foundation Incorporated provided hundreds of thousands of dollars in scholarships to Philadelphia high school students pursuing higher education. Carol Baker Rice was a proud native of West Philadelphia who never forgot the roots. She was a servant leader. On behalf of the over 550 members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the 1926 Foundation Incorporated, we respectfully request the City Council approve Bill number 230576, renaming the Charles Baker Recreation Center to the Charles Baker and Carol Baker Rice Recreation Center. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Sincerely, Charlene M. Collins, our president, and I, Lorena Marshall Blake. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Council President. I wanted to rise just to recognize the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and welcome them to our chambers, and just wanted to memorialize our former member, the second African-American woman to ever serve City Council at large, Augusta Gussie Clark. So thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Evelyn Sample.
Just for the record, I think I forget to indicate that we have 3 minutes to speak today. No reflection on you. All right.
Good morning, Council President Clark and members of City Council. My name is Evelyn Sample Oates, and I am the Chief Communication and Community Affairs Officer for the Fairmount Park Conservancy. I come before you in support of Bill 230576, the ordinance to rename the Charles Baker Recreation Center to the Charles Baker and Carol Baker Rice Recreation Center, located at 5433 Lansdowne Avenue in West Philadelphia. I had the pleasure and the honor to know Mrs. Carol Baker Rice up close and personal as a sorority sister, a friend, and a family member, not by blood, but by love, and a staunch advocate for parks and recreation centers. Since the first day I met her over 20 years ago, she was a consummate advocate for parks and recreation centers for children in Philadelphia. Although she had already retired from the city, it was obvious in all her volunteer work and philanthropic giving that she believed in making every park in Philadelphia a great place and every recreation center a safe and viable place for children and families to grow. Her entire professional career was devoted to the work of Parks and Recreation. After serving for 35 years for the Parks and Recreation Department and rising to the position of Deputy Commissioner, in her retirement, she never said no to volunteering or serving on various committees that would enhance the quality of parks and recreation centers. She worked tirelessly to spearhead programs at the Charles Baker Recreation Center, a community staple that would enhance the lives of people in the neighborhood, a center named after her father, who was her hero. Carol loved many things in this lifetime, but what she loved the most was family, the city of Philadelphia, and its people. She believed that every person had a right to a quality park in their neighborhood and programs and centers. Although we lost this great humanitarian, Carol Baker Rice, on June 17, 2023, I asked members of this council to vote favorably for the ordinance 230576 and rename the Charles Baker Recreation Center, the Charles Baker and Carol Baker Rice Recreation Center. And I would especially thank Councilman Curtis Jones for his support of this center and all the work that he gives to make sure that this center is a place for the community to enjoy and a safe haven. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next speaker.
The next speaker is Stephanie Marsh, commenting on 230576.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You're not Council President Clark. You are Majority Leader Jones. Good morning, and esteemed members of council. Also, Mike Decker. I am Stephanie Marsh, and I'm not here to speak on behalf of the administration or as a 40-year member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, but as an admirer and friend of Carol Baker Rice. Thus, I am supporting Bill number 230576, which will add her name to the Baker Rec Center, already named for her father, Charles Baker. Carol had 35 years with the Department of Recreation. Thank you to Councilman Jones for sponsoring the bill. Thanks also to Acting Parks and Rec Commissioner Orlando Rendon, who testified in support of the bill in committee. To understand girls' high school grad, Carol, you had to understand who her dad was, Charles Baker. Both were born leaders. Baker was the first black city department head in the city of Philadelphia. He was the Commissioner of Records and died in office in 1963. At that time, there were only 2 black people on city council, Thomas McIntosh for the 5th District and Marshall Shepard Sr., who was at large. Many of us sports fans know of the Baker League, founded in 1960 by Sonny Hill. We know the names of Wilt, Banks, Rashid, Kobe. Well, they all played in the Charles Baker League. In 2008, I watched the city council and then Mayor Nutter choose Carol as part of the 9-member newly created Parks and Recreation Commission. She served 2 terms. Later, Carol and I worked together, along with Ruth Butler, another sorority sister, as leaders for years on several AKA playground service projects. We started with renewing Baker in West Philadelphia with Councilman Jones and Parks and Recreation. We went back to Baker several times and even advocated for the dedication of a mural of Charles Baker. Carol and I would drive around West and North Philly searching for playgrounds that needed attention by AKA. As a former Deputy Commissioner of Recreation, Carol would say that she was most concerned about the recreation centers in this city and their users. And then can rebuild to her delight. Thank you for your consideration. Please pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And some of the most beautiful things I've ever seen is a playground filled with pink and green. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Queen Judith Robinson, commenting on 230750, 230740, and 221015.
Queen Robinson, state your name for the record and please begin your testimony.
Queen Judith Robinson here to speak on the aforementioned bills, specifically the one about the RCO process. I am speaking as Representative Emeritus of the 32nd Ward RCO after a decade of service to my community. So I'm asking, is this bill retroactive? Because I observed an RCO process in the Northeast where not only was the RCO sued, but all the members of the board. So I'm wondering if this bill is a little too late, if it's not retroactive. There's a whole lot of shenanigans going on with this RCO process I have observed after a decade. We're having a proposed police station being proposed on our historic corridor, Diamond Street, the first historic corridor in the city of Philadelphia. There's no planning going on. That should not happen. So quite a lot of shenanigans going on with the RCO process. Every other time it's been changed over the years since 2012 or 13 or so. It's been to try to usurp black women, I'm going to say, shut us up. But it ain't going to happen. You know, we not going to allow that to happen. So public participation is important. It's the process. Every citizen who is requesting notification of any development in the city of Philadelphia should be able to receive it. Notification is to the public is very important. No secrecy and hoarding of information is not democratic. We may have to even start all over with this RCO process. I'm going to say to be continued. The indemnification process would have to go a long way to try to protect those of us who work very hard in our community from the political shenanigans that I see as a result of the RCO process. I'm going to suggest that you all do a little more thorough investigation of RCO process, PHA, and any other housing development that's governmental process. We're right now completing a process with the Board of License and Inspection Review, a very little obscure board. We never got any information from the RCO as to how to navigate that process. So it's a whole lot of things we're going to have to do as we move forward with our 100th mayor. I want to say I'm going to be on board, God's willing. I'm going to be engaged, but the process must be transparent in order that we get all the information we need to make the best decisions. To be continued, thank you very much for your attention. Great holiday.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your testimony.
The next speaker is Solomon Furious World.
Good afternoon. State your name for the record and please begin your testimony.
A little bit taller than some of the other folks. I'm Solomon Furious World, staff attorney with the ACLU of Pennsylvania, and I have 4 main points. This is about the ski mask proposed ordinance. My first point, the proposed ordinance is fundamentally unfair and will disproportionately impact young people, mostly young men of color. Safety is important, but there's no evidence to suggest that ski masks cause or encourage violent crime. If you'd like to address violent crime, I'd suggest housing, food assistance, childcare, things like that. Like I said, safety is important. This proposal feels more like an attempt to further criminalize young people of color than it does to actually get at safety concerns. My second point, this proposal violates the spirit of Bailey et al. Versus the City of Philadelphia, the ongoing 13-year lawsuit against the city that's meant to address disproportionate levels at which PPD officers are stopping and frisking Black and brown people. Under Bailey's court-ordered requirements, PPD officers are not to stop anyone for low-level offenses. Implementation has not been perfect, but the city and PPD have been improving over the years. By creating a new low-level offense, this proposal seems to try to get around that lawsuit, and it has the potential to halt progress and force regression towards more racist and violent policing tactics. My third main point, this proposal purports to give PPD officers the authority to stop civilians without suspicion of an actual unlawful activity, but that's unconstitutional. This is the exact reason the Bailey lawsuit was filed 13 years ago. Both the US and Pennsylvania constitutions demand that officers have reasonable and particularized suspicion of criminal activity in order to execute a stop. The city cannot pass an ordinance to try to find an end run around that constitutional requirement or any other. Giving PPD officers a pretextual reason to stop people will only lead to more prejudicial policing practices. My fourth and final main point, PPD leadership has already publicly admitted that they will use this to target specific people. During November 14th's Committee on Public Safety meeting, Deputy Commissioner Frank Healy said that PPD officers are going to selectively enforce this. They're not going to use it against every person who's wearing a ski mask. They also said that this would better allow officers to, quote unquote, put their hands on people. I asked the council, I asked people who are listening, who are they going to put their hands on? I ask, who will they pick to enforce this against? We know history and current practices clearly shows that this will be against young Black people, mostly young Black men, and other people of color, specifically young men of color. In conclusion, all of my points kind of very quickly, this proposed ordinance seems like another targeted attempt to get at young people of color. It violates the spirit and the purpose of ongoing litigation and risk sliding us backwards. It violates the US and Pennsylvania constitutions, and these concerns are not speculative. They're based on real comments from your deputy commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you for your testimony.
The next speaker is Tara Schiraldi, commenting on 230510.
Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record.
Yes.
Begin your testimony.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me? So my name is Tara Schiraldi. I come before you to speak on behalf of United Auto Workers, Local 5502, in opposition to the ban on ski masks and balaclavas. We are the unionized attorneys from the Defender Association of Philadelphia. We represent 70% of the men, women, and children charged with crimes in Philadelphia, and the majority of abused and neglected children with open dependency cases. And we are here to oppose this bill. The criminalization of fashion popular with Black and brown youth puts Philadelphia in terrible company. And I'm reading from a passage that I found when I was looking this bill up, and it says that chief features are a broad felt hat, a long chain, and the pocket knife of a certain size and shape, worn in the vest pocket of boys and in the stockings of girls. The whiskey flask and the particular shape of it that fits into girls' bosoms, the men's haircut of increasing density and length at the neck, all of which paraphernalia has symbolic and secret meanings for the initiates. In some places, the wearing of the uniform by the whole gang is a danger signal, indicating a predetermined plan for concerted action and attack. That's a description of a zoot suit that was printed in the Washington Post in 1943 in an article written in support of the Los Angeles Police Department, deeming jazz fashion so dangerous that they were publicly stripping Black and brown teenagers for wearing them out. More recently in my lifetime, conservative jurisdictions have focused their efforts on criminalizing sagging. As with this bill, the public safety was the reason that was most often cited in places like Jefferson Parish, Louisiana, which many of you probably learned about at the same time I did as they were blocking people from evacuating during Hurricane Katrina. That is not company which I want my city to be a part of. And what we see in this bill, in this act, in the announced intention to only target certain people who are wearing ski masks or scarves, because let's be clear, this criminalizes all head coverings, with a couple of addendums. You have made the First Amendment in this proposed language a footnote, and one which I just want to remind this council, based on the planned fine scheme, people would have to raise themselves without an appointed attorney because they would not have the right to counsel appointed by this city to represent them were they charged only with wearing headscarves. So they would have no representation from our office and offices like ours should they want to raise the fact that it was religious or an act of political speech. So I ask you to vote against this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
The next speaker is Mary Heenan, commenting on 230510.
Good morning. My
afternoon.
name is Mary Hennon. I am here as the president of UAW Local 5502 and also a West Philadelphia resident. I will echo the concerns of my colleagues and of the ACLU. Just yesterday, Deputy Commissioner Healy reiterated his view that the police will use Bill 230510 as another excuse to stop and harass Black and brown young people in this city. The same people that the council have invited to view this hearing today are the people that are being put at risk by this bill. He has said, we are not going to use this bill to stop everyone wearing a ski mask. Just those the police, deem to be untenable or suspicious. There is no legal right for them to do this, and this is only going to reinforce the existing lack of trust between community members and public safety officers. It is going to increase that lack of trust, which increases crime and decreases the police's clearance rates. We know that the police are not successful, not because every single criminal in this city is wearing a ski mask. We know that ski masks, clothing, are not inherently dangerous. The same people wearing ski masks are wearing shirts, shoes, jackets, anything that you can imagine an ordinary person is wearing. Are those next to be criminalized? I don't see how any of this does anything but target the same people that we are trying to protect in this city. This bill says that the targeting of ski masks is because it is a trend. A trend is fashion that comes and goes. That is the language of the bill. What is the next trend that this council will criminalize? And how does that increase public safety? It is a very dangerous precedent for this council to join the company of the Deep South, of Jackson, Mississippi, Birmingham, Alabama, all these places where Black and brown trends have been historically criminalized. We thank those who stand in opposition to this bill and who stand in support of the young people in this room today, and we ask the rest of you to join them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
The next speaker is Jetson Cruz, commenting on 230510.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jetson Cruz. I'm a youth activist with an organization called YASP, and I'm here to speak out against the ski mask ban. Like everybody before me, I feel like that's just another reason to stop and harass people. That's another reason to, all we doing is giving people fines. And right now, me wearing this doesn't mean I'm about to go commit a crime or do anything wrong. I'm a little nervous right now because this means a lot to me, because I honestly feel like this is just a reason to target the young people. Majority of the people wearing these masks is our young people. We talking about giving fines to our young people, $250, $2,000 to our young people. How does that help the people is my question. How does that help the people? It don't help me. I like this for fashion. It's my choice of clothing, and it's getting cold. Just because I'm wearing this don't mean I'm about to go commit a crime. This is being brought into conversation because of the people that's out there committing crimes wearing this choice of clothing. I don't think banning ski masks is going to stop those people from committing any crimes. If we're going to talk about anything, let's talk about the crimes and not the clothing that people are using to commit it. Like, I had this whole little speech prepared, and now that I'm up here, I'm like fumbling a little bit, and I apologize for that, everybody, but yeah, I don't see, how does it help me? Banning ski masks, how does it help me? It hurts me. I gotta worry about going out there and getting stopped and harassed by the police for wearing something that I choose to wear. I got tattoos, and I'm already a person of color. So now for my choice of clothing, I get stopped and harassed too. It scares me. It scares me. And with that being said, I don't think this bill should be passed. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it.
Next speaker is Michael Moore. Commenting on 230510.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Moore, and I am a member of UAW Local 5502 for unionized attorneys at the Defender Association of Philadelphia, and I'm currently assigned to our Children and Youth Justice Unit. I'm also a resident of this great city, and I have grave concerns about this ski mask ban and how it will be selectively enforced. Because make no mistake, this will be selectively enforced, as the police have already publicly said. The young people in this city are over-policed and often perceived as criminal by their very presence. This ban only makes clear how this city council truly feels about its young people. They are criminals in need of heavy-handed policing. Policing that prevents you from protecting yourself against the cold on the streets or in the parks of this city. Policing that says what you wear on your body is for a cop to decide. Policing that says young people don't have autonomy over their clothing choices. The state does. That is the kind of policing that will only engender more distrust and anger amongst our young people towards police. It will not make us safer. It should not become law. Thank you.
The next speaker is Lynn Landis, commenting on 210913.
Good afternoon. My name is Lynn Landis. I'm founder of thewildfoodies.org and protocolsfordemocracy.org. I support Resolution 210913, authorizing City Council to retain legal counsel to file a lawsuit to require the administration to implement and enforce the Healthy Outdoors Public Spaces Act, which was designed to end the use of pesticides on city property. This is an enforcement issue. The non-enforcement of local, state, and federal laws has become a problem, particularly when it applies to our constitutional right to free speech. I want to take this moment to thank City Council President Darrell Clark for his wit and wisdom in maintaining decorum during city council meetings. It is much appreciated. And I would also like to congratulate City Council Member Kenyatta Johnson for his unofficial election to President of City Council for the new year. I would like to specifically request that both he and the new City Council amend public meeting policies so that public comment is no longer restricted to agenda items only, which is a systemic form of censorship and a clear violation of the Sunshine Act. In addition, I would like to request that the complete agenda for city council meetings be made available to the public 3 days before meetings so that new items are not added on at the last minute unless it is a true emergency. The front-loading of the agenda at the beginning of every city council meeting has made the printed agenda almost meaningless and made it difficult, if not impossible, for members of the public to make informed comment, particularly before any vote. Lastly, city council committees should hold regularly scheduled monthly meetings so that the public may comment on issues of concern. By holding meetings only when specific bills are being considered is to systemically censor the public. We cannot count on the mainstream news media to inform the public. Therefore, city council meetings are the public's opportunity not only to bring their issues to the attention of city council members, but also to the public's attention. For example, most people haven't heard that the Children's Health Defense recently sued the city for a 15-year policy of allowing 11-year-olds to get vaccines without their parents' knowledge or permission. This is a health regulation that should have been thoroughly discussed at city council meetings, but wasn't. It is time to change city council meetings and let the sunshine in on city council altogether. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony.
The next speaker is Saud Salahuddin. Commenting on 230510.
Good afternoon.
How you guys doing today? My name is Saud Salahuddin, here with Colleen.
Move it up a little so we can hear you.
We're from Mid Philly. I'm 19. From Somerville, it's in the uptown area of Philadelphia. We're here speaking on a bill of the ski mask. I have a ski mask on. I didn't cause any harm to anybody. I don't plan on causing any harm to anybody. I never been arrested. I never plan to be arrested. Therefore, I don't agree with banning ski masks because it's used for positive duties and activities like work, like sports. People wear this in sports. Also, it's used for fashion, and it's also used for when you're cold and you might need warmth. So I don't think we should be fined or punished because of an item that the media panned out to be negative, when in fact, it's not negative. It's just something that the media pans out to be negative. Like she said, it's a trend. That's all it is. So me personally, I feel as though just because somebody carried out an act in this particular item doesn't make the item bad. The person chose to do that. We cannot connect an item with a negative act or a crime. You connect the person with that. The item did not cause the person to do that. The item did not force the person to do that. The person chose to do that act. Therefore, we shouldn't ban it, and I think it's absurd because a person committing a crime was their choice, not the item's choice. So everybody else should not be affected by something that a specific group of people chose to do. This item is a fashion statement. This item is a lot of things to a culture. So in fact, I think it's an attack on culture. A lot of these people that are doing these things, they can be just as incognito with a black COVID mask, shades, and a hoodie as someone with a ski mask. Also, there are religious items that people wear, clothing items, where you can be just as incognito as someone with a ski mask. Yet we're not banning these items, we're targeting the ski mask. a specific item of the culture. I don't agree with it. I'm going to continue wearing this ski mask, and that's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you for your
The
testimony.
next speaker is Jania Robinson.
Good morning,
Good
members
afternoon.
of City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Janae Robinson, the Senior Communications Director at Visit Philadelphia, the city's official destination marketing organization. Today, I'm here to express our support for Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson's resolution on Shop Black Business Fridays. This initiative was first introduced in 2020 to counter the accelerated closures of Black and brown businesses, serving as a crucial lifeline to these establishments during the pandemic. These businesses are not only vital to the communities they serve, they are also extremely important to our economy. According to the Brookings Institute, Black-owned businesses nationally generated almost $142 billion in gross revenue. With City Council's support, we will use every Friday in December as an opportunity to drive traffic to these businesses and encourage visitors and residents to spend their dollars with Black and brown-owned businesses. Visit Philadelphia will leverage the power of visitphilly.com and our social media channels to amplify the reach of these businesses, connecting them with thousands of potential new customers. I stand before you today not only as a representative of Visit Philadelphia, but also as a small business owner who once owned and operated a store on South Street for 4 years. I understand firsthand the critical importance of holiday sales to small businesses. While year-round support is indispensable, the revenue generated during the holiday season often determines whether your favorite small business will remain open another year. On behalf of Visit Philadelphia, I extend my gratitude to Councilmember Richardson for once again championing this initiative, and I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Biancia Van Hedorn. Commenting on 230869 and 230510.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here and having the opportunity to speak. My name is Bianca Van Hedorn. I am the Executive Director of the Youth Sentencing and Reentry Project. We work with young people who are involved in the criminal legal system, specifically young people who are charged as if they were adults. Our client partners at the JJSC are not only living in inhumane conditions, but are being forced to effectively endure multiple periods of incarceration. This is a terrible strategy, and I want to thank Councilmember Gautier and Councilmember Jones for addressing this issue. While we support Resolution 230869, we also want to strongly encourage Council to continue working with your colleagues in Harrisburg on legislation that would bring a variety of solutions to the over-incarceration crisis at the JJSC. We are also here in strong opposition to Bill 230510, which would criminalize the wearing of certain face coverings, specifically in places where young people congregate. I will not repeat what so many have said before me, so I want to bring two other points. One, fining children has never worked as a policy solution to anything, and I wish we understood that that was obvious. If this policy were implemented, the most it would do is heighten fear of police among young people and make them afraid to visit the very places we want them to be, engaging in pro-social activities like rec centers. It makes no sense to discourage teenagers from spending their free time at rec centers, at schools, at places where we actually want them to be, that would limit their exposure to things that might have them in contact with the criminal legal system. Young people need care, investment, belief, and nurturing from adults. I am begging, can we please put more of our energy into creating opportunities for young people to thrive, not more opportunities for them to be fined, arrested, and shuffled into a deeply harmful criminal legal system. All of our safety depends on that. I fear for our city when we are making these decisions instead of leaning on our law enforcement to do better jobs at investigating, at building community with young people, at doing the things that actually make us be safe. And why the City Council of Philadelphia would knowingly create a policy that is intended to be enforced in a racially disparate manner is really beyond me and quite terrifies me. This bill, a brown face mask, quite frankly, is a racist dog whistle that will not do a single thing to reduce violence, provide support for young people who desperately need it, or make any of us more safe. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
The next speaker is Artie Tillman. Commenting on 230510.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Artie Tillman. I come from a journey. I'm 70 years old. And this journey, a process of good against injustice. I have experienced racism, injustice from the age of 17. So now I know how it feels to have people treat you and their prejudice, even though they tend to have good intentions. So I am a direct descendant of that harm. And I ask Almighty God every day to soften my heart so I won't be like you that make decisions of prejudice. Hadn't you had enough for 400 years to come to these conclusions that prejudice is wrong? How much more, or how many young men is going to come out like me? I'm here identifying how I feel in my heart towards the things of your ill treatment towards me, because I believe in a certain way. I'm my color of my skin. Or I wear a hoodie and I'm 70 years old, and I wear it because I had a fire. It burned down my house. It burned up my wife, and I live in a trailer because it's cold. So I had to put this ski mask on. But I experienced all those young brothers that walk past there. They're good human beings. And they're just following a trend. They're not criminals. What's enough? When is it enough to produce people like me? I didn't intend to be like this. This is what you produced me. No foreign country produced me. You produced me with your prejudice, making decisions without thinking. No, I'm against this for them young brothers. What opposes me even more, that I had to wake up this morning to look at the TV set and find 2 hoodie masses with a band in the city of Philadelphia with Arabic writing on the side. That means, La ilaha illallah, I bear witness there is but one God. Knowing that you create an ideology of terrorism with these brothers with these hoodies, a religion you identifying. I'm not like you. I'm better than you. Because if it had Jewish symbolism, I would be just upset today. If it had Christianity, a symbolism, I would be just upset today. Because the justice, whether it's religion or not, is not under prejudice. We are all one human race, many sizes and many shapes and many colors. We come from one creator.
Thank you.
Let us.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
The next speaker is Kylene Washington. Commenting on 230510.
doing today? My name is Colleen Washington. I'm here to speak on the ski mask ban. I understand a lot of your perspective on wearing ski masks nowadays, but me personally, I also know and believe that not everyone who wears a ski mask is a criminal or harmful to the community. Some people wear them to protect themselves from being seen by a person that is harmful to them. With that being said, I feel as though to ban ski masks is more harmful than it is helpful to the community. On top of that, with these upcoming weather conditions, I just feel as though it would be inconsiderate and inconvenient because they will be sold and wore regardless of what I have to say or the law has to say. And a fine of $250 for wearing what keeps me warm or makes me feel safe and secure around groups of people in certain areas, I feel as though that is outrageous. And we walk past burglars and murderers without masks on a daily basis. So with that being said, I oppose the ski mask ban. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
There are no other speakers today, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our public comment for today. We will now move to our calendar. And Mr. Decker, please read the title of 230869.
A resolution calling on the Pennsylvania General Assembly to pass comprehensive legislation providing sustainable relief to an overburdened system and to protect children held at the Philadelphia Juvenile Justice Services Center by recognizing time spent as time served.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption.
Can I get a second? Thank you. It's been moved and probably second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, 230870.
A resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 3000 Ruth Street located in the 7th Councilmanic District.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Lozada.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and probably second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 230872.
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to 1221 St. Bernard Street in the 3rd Councilmanic District.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gautier.
President, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and probably second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, 230750.
A resolution proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to provide for indemnification and defense by the city in connection with claims made against any registered community organization arising directly out of the lawful participation by such an organization in zoning matters and related land use process.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you. I move for the adoption.
Thank you. It's been moved and probably second that the resolution be adopted. Because resolution number 230750 is an amendment to the Home Rule Charter, it requires a 2/3 vote. Therefore, the question is, shall this resolution be adopted? And Mr. Decker, you'll call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Brooks. Councilman Driscoll. Councilwoman Gautier. Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson. Councilman Harity. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilwoman Lozada. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman Phillips. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Thomas. Councilwoman Vaughn. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15. The nays are 0. 2/3 of all members having voted in the affirmative. Resolution number 230750 has been adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of bill number 230740.
An ordinance providing for the submission of the qualified electors of the City of Philadelphia of the proposal set forth in a resolution approved by council, proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to provide for the indemnification and defense by the city in connection with claims made against any registered community organization arising directly out of the lawful participation by such an organization in zoning matters and related land use process, and authorizing the appropriate officers to publish notice and to make arrangements for the special election.
Thank you. This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Driscoll.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gardier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson. Councilman Harity.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lozada.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilman Phillips.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Councilwoman Vaughn.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15, the nays are 0. Majority of all members present voting in affirmative. The bill 2/3. Thank you. Bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 230-249.
An ordinance establishing a no truck parking regulation on both sides of 52nd Street between Arlington Street and West Burke Street, and a no truck parking regulation on both sides of 53rd Street between Lebanon Avenue and Arlington Street.
Thank you. This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Driscoll. Councilwoman Gardier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson. Councilman Harity.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lozada.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilman Phillips.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas. Councilwoman Vaughn.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in affirmative. The bill passes. Mr. Decker, 230-511.
An ordinance authorizing encroachments in the nature of a sidewalk cafe in the vicinity of 4001 Crescent Street.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question is now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Brooks. Councilman Driscoll. Councilwoman Gardier. Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson. Councilman Harity. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilwoman Lozada. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman Phillips. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Thomas. Councilwoman Vaughn. Council President Clark.
Ayes are 15, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting affirmative. The bill passes. Mr. Decker, 230-717.
An ordinance extending the term of the existence of the Philadelphia Parking Authority.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Brooks. Councilman Driscoll. Councilwoman Gardier. Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson. Councilman Harity. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilwoman Lozada. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman Phillips. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Thomas. Councilwoman Vaughn. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting affirmative. The bill passes. Mr. Decker, 230-569.
An ordinance amending Chapter 9, 4400 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Responsible Business Operations to expand the provisions for video monitoring of nuisance businesses and to provide additional enforcement mechanisms in connection with certain nuisance businesses engaged in drug paraphernalia sales.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Brooks. Councilman Driscoll. Councilwoman Gardier. Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson. Councilman Harity. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilwoman Lozada. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman Phillips. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Thomas. Councilwoman Vaughn. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in affirmative. The bill passes. Mr. Decker, 230-647.
An ordinance amending Subcode A, the Philadelphia Administrative Code, and Subcode PM, the Philadelphia Property Maintenance Code of Title IV, and Chapter 93900, Property Licenses and Owner Accountability of the Philadelphia Code, to modify prohibitions, remedies, including fines and licensing and certification requirements related to shared retaining walls.
This bill having been read on 2 different days. Question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Brooks. Councilman Driscoll. Councilwoman Gaudier. Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson. Councilman Harity. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilwoman Lozada. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman Phillips. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Thomas. Councilwoman Vaughn. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 230-576.
An ordinance renaming and designating the property commonly referred to as the Charles Baker Recreation Center, located at 5433 Lansdowne Avenue, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as the Charles Baker and Carol Baker Rice Recreation Center.
This bill having been read on 2 different days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Brooks. Councilman Driscoll. Councilwoman Gaudier. Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson. Councilman Harity. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilwoman Lozada. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman Phillips. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Thomas. Councilwoman Vaughn. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15, nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 230-510.
An ordinance amending Chapter 10600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Public Spaces Prohibited Conduct by prohibiting certain facial coverings from being worn in certain spaces.
Chair recognizes Councilman Phillips.
Mr. President, council colleagues, and citizens both here and those connected to this body by the miracles of modern technology. This is a good afternoon. It is a good afternoon because of the glimmer of hope that we see as we make our community safer, more prosperous, and better places to live, learn, and work. This afternoon, we will consider a critical piece of legislation that will return both power and safety to the people. And many of them, hundreds, thousands, who are not here today to really speak on how important this ski mask bill is to them. This ski mask ban legislation has been carefully considered by all of us. We all bring our ideological lenses and experiences to this task. We cannot help but to bring who we are, what we believe, and what we have experienced, and how we have walked through life to this moment. Now, we all come from all walks of life, and from every possible corner of this city, north, south, southwest, northwest, northeast. We hail from diverse enclaves, but notwithstanding our differences and variations, we all seek a safer, better city for every resident and visitor in the city of Philadelphia. What unites us today is more powerful than what divides us. I encourage us all to stand together as we head towards a better city with the promise of a more safety and decency. I encourage all of us to support this measure because of its unifying principles about who we are as a city. Heretofore, this legislation has been read in this chamber, considered in committee, and it returns to us today with significant support from people from all corners of the city of Philadelphia and across ideological spectrum. Similarly, many of you have expressed confidence in this bill, my colleagues, and it aims to create a safer, more transparent, and loving community. Your co-sponsorship, your encouragement, and determination to see this through is a great sign that we are focusing on moving to a post-COVID normalcy that has evaded us. I was overjoyed this morning when I saw hundreds of kids, and one individual came up to me and said, Phillips, I told the students that we're going to vote on this bill today to ban ski masks in their schools among some of the public places. And they were overjoyed, overwhelmingly. We must make decisions that often sometimes people are afraid to say, but in their households they are encouraged to say that they are wanting a brighter tomorrow for Philadelphia. Today is a day where we take a stand for what we know is right and proper. It won't solve all issues, because like my colleagues and many others, I do believe in prevention. I do believe in the idea of doing as much as we can to support preventive measures and intervention. But nonetheless, this bill is not without controversy. No legislation is perfect, Philadelphia. But this bill goes a long way with addressing a lingering quality of life and safety issues that plagues our cities. Unnecessary ski masks that are not worn for safety or warmth or religious reasons. We're fine with that. But oftentimes, these ski masks are concealed for criminal conduct. We must do our duty and place the highest premium on restoring the public trust by having safer communities. This is what our neighbors have sent us to council to do. We are faced with making hard choices at tough times for a city confronted by challenges on every front. In places where public servants, like recreation centers personnel, teachers, social workers, nurses, cleaning people, bus drivers, and other people go out to do their jobs every day. They should not be allowed to do so. They should be allowed to do so in safety. This legislation does just that. Senior citizens, our most vulnerable population, are crying for us to pass this measure. For too long, in too many instances, they have lingered in the shadows of our inaction. Too many seniors have told me on their way to public spaces that they felt unsafe as folks have hid their identities and created a sense of anxiety in the midst of historical crime levels. Our actions today in city enforcement of this policy begin the process of restoring order and decency to the parts of the city immediately. I am the youngest member of Philadelphia City Council. I'm also a black man raised by a black woman and a black grandmother. And too often we understand the negative narratives about black men. But I'm also soberly aware of this reality. And in fact, that is why I'm eager for the passage of this legislation today. We must send a message that masks serve no discernible public or private good when they just create fear and anxiety. We must act to show our children. Many of the folks in the city will not even allow their own children to wear these masks. In our communities, that we are better than what we have been. This is a message that we must be conveyed across the city of Philadelphia in a crystal clear manner. It must be conveyed directly to the others as they seek the best results for their lives. This is why I've chosen to author this bill, and I know it's not popular. But we must make effective conclusions to the passage of this law that sends the right passage about safety in our city, because it's popular in communities that really care about us. There are too many crimes in the city, people who take advantage of the license to wear ski masks after we all donned them to keep each other safe post-COVID. We are, though, at an important moment when our people are looking to define anew what kind of city or society we will be at this critical juncture in our history. We will either co-sign lawlessness or demand decency and high quality of life in the city. Lastly, I'm reminded of the great Paul Laurence Dunbar, who wrote the poem, "We Wear the Mask." At an earlier time in our nation's history when African Americans were forced to wear a mask, strutting their brilliance and their beauty, Dunbar's tortured writing soul tapped into how awful it is when we feel we have to hide who we are. Listen to Dunbar's words. We wear the mask that grims and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile, with torn and bleeding hearts we smile and mouth myriad subsidies. But let the world dream otherwise, we wear the mask. In passing this legislation today, we are affirming for our city's youth. Many of them I've worked with, thousands of them that I've guided and supported, helping them understand why ski masks are important, why leadership is important. ski masks are important to take off, why leadership is important, why careers, why college and opportunities is important, many of them I've worked with, that they can shed every veil that stands between them and their greatness, that there's nothing for them to hide. They, like all of us, need to see their greatness unmasked and uncovered. They reassured Dunbar that we no longer wear the mask because our brilliance, our sense of hope, and our positivity are far too bright and beautiful and bold to be veiled behind ski masks or their negative connotations. We no longer need to wear the ski mask. The picture of the easel next to me is a mentor of mine from Morehouse College in Atlanta, the college that produced Martin Luther King Jr., Maynard Jackson, the college that produced Spike Lee, Samuel L. Jackson, a school that shows and teaches young black men that masks will never work when your real face is the face of naturally great and shines so everly bright. What this photo is showing that is this young man from Albany, as he lifts his face mask and helmet from his head, is that the real game of life does not take place on football fields or street corners. No, we do not advance our lives wearing ski masks. We move forward and we make progress as a people and city when we remove our masks and show who we are with all of our beautiful potential. That doesn't happen when we wear ski masks. Council President, I urge all of us who love this city and have listened to every person in this city to support this legislation and show our entire city of Philadelphia that we are prepared to do everything that we can to advance our city and its people. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gautier.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Councilmember Phillips, for your speech. I'm going to be voting no on the bill, but I just wanted to say, some words about that. I came in actually leaning towards, yes, I can understand objectively why we wouldn't want people to be wearing ski masks. I want to help PPD solve crimes. However, at the same time, I can't in good conscience vote for something that I feel would further criminalize and marginalize young black men in our city, particularly when I don't feel like, as a city, we've done enough to engage them, listen to them, and support them. I was very moved by the testimony, particularly of the young people, Liam, who testified. Number one looks like my son, and it's also very hard for me to vote for someone, for something that would create a harsher city for the young black men that I'm raising. But further, I've sat with Liam and with many of the young people from Philly, as well as other youth-serving organizations, to talk about what they need, right? To talk about their experiences and touch points with the criminal legal system, and to get their perspective as impacted people in the city on what we can do to keep young people out of the path of violence. And not only do I think that we lose credibility if we do this without doing more of those conversations, if we increase the enforcement and the marginalization without increasing the support of young people. I also feel like that exercise of listening, hearing, and then following up with the support, whether that be, housing or mentorship or changing the conditions in PJJSC, whatever it is, I think it's incumbent upon us as a city to deliver that support, and to prioritize that over making enforcement harsher on young black men in our city in ways that might not even be constitutional. So I wanted to just take some time to explain that. I also wanted to commend Councilmember Phillips. I greatly respect your work. I think that council has been made better with your addition. I particularly like the work that you've done around quality of life issues. You know, you did the bill on taking away all of the red tape around getting speed bumps around schools. I got like 50 schools that have like speed bumps now, right, in the 3rd district. And I also appreciate your legislation on nuisance businesses. So I just want you to know how much I value you, even though I'm going to be a no on this bill today. And thank you so much for your leadership. And thanks to everyone for a thoughtful consideration on these issues. And I think that, you know, from wherever we're coming from on these issues, we all have the same goal of making our city safer and more peaceful, and helping to create neighborhoods where people can thrive. I believe that fully. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Good afternoon, President. This is a tough vote. I listened to that young man talk earlier about how nervous he was. I'm nervous too, right? But let me provide some context as to where I am on this particular situation. On Friday, high school basketball season starts. And when basketball season starts, outside of my city council, had myself, along with 100, maybe even 200 other coaches, will be responsible for the lives of young people for the next couple months to make sure that they can participate in extracurricular activity in positive ways. Sometimes we get on vans to travel to games. Sometimes we use the cheese bus. But we all know that there's a shortage in buses, and sometimes we have to get on SEPTA to travel to and from games. Last year, I remember playing a game at West Philly High School. And if you know anything about West Philly High School, the level of participation from the neighborhood and from the students is pretty active, especially because they're good right now. The lighting outside of West Philly High School is terrible. And I talked to the superintendent and the Office of Athletics about that. And I remember leaving that game last year and it being pitch dark. And, you know, in that space, I'm not Councilman Thomas. I'm a nut blank old head. So, you know, the nut old head with the baggy clothes on, you know, they had a lot of choice words for me and my team as we was leaving West Philly High School. And while I can hear everything that was said, I could see nothing and nobody. And as I left that building, I ended up calling the school district and I snapped on them because I said, if you're going to put me in a position to be in this type of danger, what are you doing to other schools? 2 days later, another school played at West Philadelphia High School, and unfortunately, a young man was jumped as they left the game, beat up pretty bad. And at the end of the day, we don't know who did that because the people who jumped him had a ski mask on. Councilmember Phillips said he's the youngest member in City Council. I'm only a couple years older than him. Me and Councilmember Phillips, we fit the description. We do. That's the reality of it. And look, I hate wearing a suit. I try to wear it as little as possible. If it was up to me, I'd be in a sweatsuit and a hoodie as often as I could be, but the reality is that that's not the job. The job says this is the decorum. This is what we have to wear. This is what we have to do. And at the end of the day, I listened to all the testimony. I heard the young man talk about wearing a ski mask with sports. You can still wear them on the football field if this bill gets passed. I heard the young men talk about wearing them when you're walking down the street when it's cold. You can still do that. I listened to some of the concerns as it relates to this being a tool to stop crime. I don't think any of us think this ban will stop crime. But Councilmember Jones, who chairs the Public Safety Committee, and Councilmember Johnson, who chairs this committee on gun violence, I sit in those committees often. I listen to police. And I agree with the testimony that we have to push law enforcement to do a little bit more to solve crimes. But at the end of the day, as a legislator, every day I listen. That's our job, to listen. And one of the things that police have told us is that the number one way that they have to stop crime is cameras and technology. That's their best tool. It's not witness testimony. It's not forensic evidence. It's cameras. It's technology. And so when I put out my gun report and when members of this legislative body decided multiple times to give the administration more money for cameras than what they can purchase at the rate that they're moving right now, we did it because we wanted to do something about public safety. And at the end of the day, if we know in good faith that this bill doesn't prevent crime, I want to be clear, no one feels like this bill prevents crime. But if we know as legislators in good faith that police have told us multiple times that the number one way they have to solve crimes in this city is with cameras, it's our job to try our best to equip them to be able to use technology to do so. When you're in rec centers, which I'm in often, I had 150 kids at my camp last summer at Finley Rec Center. When you're in a library, when you're on a SEPTA bus, most importantly, when you're in a school, you should not be able to wear them. You shouldn't. I'm all for trends and things that's cool for young people, very supportive of that stuff. But what am I supposed to say to a parent when we leave a basketball game and harm is done to a child and there's no way to tell who did that harm or why that harm was done? At the end of the day, like I said, this is a tough bill. I agree we have to do more. We started city council an hour late today. Am I right, Mr. Chairman? Because we're arguing over trying to do more. We want to put more money in arts and rec centers, and we don't want just, $7 million to be able to discuss. We want to get that number up to $15 million so we can have more money to be able to provide for resources and initiatives and activities for people in neighborhoods across the city of Philadelphia. So again, this is a tough bill. And as someone who fits the description, I'm going to close out with this, and I'm going to be honest with y'all. Young people, y'all got to take them Jones off. Seriously. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. How much did you say? 15? Just want to make sure I heard you. Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Brooks.
Thank you, Council President. So I will be voting no on this bill, and me and the bill sponsor had a long conversation about this legislation, and he's very clear on, my feelings around it. And I do understand the perspective of many of my colleagues around this, but I, in good faith, cannot vote to support this. And I do have a long prepared statement, which I'm not getting ready to go through right now. But I just want to recognize the hard work of Councilmember Phillips. And just, one of the things I take away from our conversation is a story that one of my young people came in the house with the mask, and I made them take it off. Not because I thought they was going to commit a crime. My fear is that people would assume that that would happen to them, and that was my fear in my household. Realizing that, it's a fashion trend and all the things that the young people said. But also, I realized that the risks that we put young people under, and I'm using this because I passed a piece of legislation during my first time in council that I fought very hard for. It was the paid sick leave legislation that sunsets in December. And to this day, we have thousands of Philadelphians that don't even know that that exists. So my concern is when we pass legislation and it doesn't have the opportunity to reach the people that will be most affected by it. So we pass this ban and young folks don't even know that it's reality, because believe it or not, the folks that we're targeting with this bill, they ain't paying attention to us in city council. The same young folks that have to take off their hoods at school every day, and any teachers in the room know that that's an all-day process from class to class. So my fear is that we're putting legislation on the books for a certain population that won't even realize that this is going to victimize them until it does, which further tarnishes the relationships between the police officers and young people. So I will be voting no on this resolution, but those are my sticking points. And Councilmember Phillips and I had long conversations about my feelings on this, and I tried. I told him I would try. I'm gonna sleep on it for a couple days. It's a couple of days, and I still can't in good faith vote in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Mr. President, colleagues, I respect legislation that makes us think, makes us question, makes us debate which way we should go on a situation. But at the end of the day, we got to make a decision. We don't get the luxury of kicking the can down the road. I went back and forth on this myself, struggled with this myself. Early on, I had asked the co-sponsor of this legislation, not because I don't respect what Yas Philly does. Some of my people are part of their organization at this point. But when I think about what the AKA name of Pooh Shiesties represent, I have to weigh that to say, does the good outweigh the bad? One of the most compelling parts of the testimony was that if you have to wear this to feel safe in a neighborhood because others might attack you for who you are, we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do to make them feel safe. And I encourage, and I would be a part of, any dialogue, Member Gautier, that you want to do to listen more. I'm all in. And we ain't always got to agree on everything, but we agree on loving our kids. So if this is just a piece of cloth, but it represents to some a lot more. And if somebody came in here with a Klan hood on, I'd be concerned. And it represents to my ancestors a threat. It represents danger to my ancestors. And so therefore I would be as concerned as I am about this. And God, help whatever inspired you today, Martin Luther King III, you helped push me in this direction to support this ban today. But I want to put on the record, it did not come easy. Came with internal strife about what direction we should go in. And sometimes, every now and then, we got to protect our kids from themselves. Like, that's real. I'm not the youngest member of council, and I damn sure like my suits. But if I put this on, I'm the defendant suspect too. And so we have to balance what our civil liberties are to our public safeties, but we all always need to listen to our young people. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Vaughn.
Thank you, Council President. Anthony Phillips, you dropped the mic with that speech. You know, I got a couple dollars for your collection plate. But like my colleagues, I did struggle with my decision with this legislation. I don't want to do anything else to harm our young children, but I also don't want to keep giving criminals or people with criminal-like minds the permission to wear these masks to commit crimes. There's a time and place for everything. Like Councilman Thomas said, you can still wear them for sporting events and things like that if necessary, but we don't want you to wear them in the public so that you're hiding your face. I feel safer when I can see what you look like, and if a crime is committed, I can see you and I'm going to tell. I feel that cameras can't see behind masks, just like we cannot. So we can't help solve a crime if we can't see who's committing it. I'm hoping that this legislation will deter criminals from trying to commit crimes by wearing them. And also that our community as a whole will feel safer because we will see less of them. Yes, I do think it's going to be a challenge, and I also said to my colleague, Councilman Phillips, why not just amend it to say that if someone commits a crime wearing a mask, we can give them a tougher penalty for wearing it to commit a crime. But as it states, it is what it is. And as far as respecting people's religions and things like that, we're not saying don't wear your garb. We're not saying don't cover your head if that's something that you believe in that needs to be done to show your faith. But at the same token, covering your face is not something that's normal. And we have to stop trying to pretend that it is. Also, we will do our jobs in making sure that those that don't know about this legislation get informed, however that looks. If it means posting flyers at the doors of the schools, if it means putting flyers on the public transportation. I'm looking back at the representative from SEPTA here. Whatever it takes, we'll make sure that the public understands that wearing ski masks in public is no longer acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Harity.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Council President. Council President, I co-sponsored this bill with Anthony because of an incident that happened when me and you were together. We went to celebrate what we thought was a good thing of putting cameras up on 11th Street at a rec center in North Philadelphia. We were happy because we thought, maybe that would bring a little sense of, safety. And what was it, 2-3 days later, a young man rode into the park wearing one of the Pooh Shiesties and shot another child and killed him. We're here to make some hard decisions, and this is hard. We don't want to point anybody out. Kids wear them. I mean, I have a 20-something-year-old kid. He wears those things every once in a while for different outfits or whatever they're doing, as they say. Maybe they use it as a fashion statement, some people. But the harsh reality is, in my neighborhood where I live in Kensington, there's a reason for people to be scared of somebody wearing a ski mask. That's the harsh reality. That's what the seniors in my neighborhood have to deal with every day. And as I said, it may be a hard vote for some people, but I'm voting trying to save kids' lives, whatever it takes. If they want to be mad about it, that's okay. We were put here to make tough decisions, and not everybody is going to like everything we do. That's why we have a voting process. But I stand with Councilman Phillips, and I appreciate that you had the courage to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
President, I just wanted to, well, number one, I wanted to thank Councilmember Phillips for his speech and its delivery. I love Passion with a Purpose, and I think that he really did, send this as or hit this as a home run in terms of really delivering the thought process behind this particular piece of legislation. I just wanted to add briefly that the day before Thanksgiving in my district, there was a shooting in broad daylight. A young man was killed, and after he was shot several times, the person who shot him walked away. He didn't run, he walked away. And I believe he was wearing a ski mask, although I don't have that exact detail, but I will clarify, waiting for that information now. But there was no worry or concern about being identified or caught as he walked away from someone dead laying in the street. But the one thing I wanted to point out really is that, you know, as his friends were trying to get him, scoop him up and get him into a vehicle to get him to the hospital, the police arrived on the scene and, you know, saw what was going on, grabbed him up really quick, were able to get him in the car because they weren't able to get him in the car. The police got him in the car, rushed him to the hospital. But one of the things that came back to me from some of the folks in the neighborhood was a sentiment from the guys, and this happened, you know, in the neighborhood in Germantown. The sentiment that came back was, we don't fool with the police. And that wasn't the F word that they used. We don't fool with the police. But they tried to save our friend's life. And that goes so much further in terms of police and community relationships than anything else that, you know, you can think of. When police and communities are working together in action, even under duress, it sends a signal that these are working relationships. These are relationships that are valuable, that are important, and that can be built on. And I think that we, as members of council, one of the things that we can do is really take instances like these unfortunate things that happen in our neighborhoods and really find ways to bind community with police so that we can work together and build relationships. So I just wanted to put that out there. You know, there's too many of these cases in which we continue to hear no arrests and no suspects. And so if removing the ski mask is a way to help the police do their job and take people off of the street, because if you shoot somebody in broad daylight and you walk away, there's a good chance that wasn't your first hit. That wasn't your first time. That wasn't your first homicide. That wasn't your first shooting. You know, this is somebody who's dangerous that we need to get out of our community. And so, you know, we hate that it's at the expense of people who are minding their own business and going about their own day and not causing any harm or any trouble to anyone. But at the same time, we have to protect all. And so that's why I'm going to be voting for this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. About 20 years ago, I had an opportunity to meet a young man who served as the president of an organization called Philadelphia Youth Action. And that's an organization that organizes young people all across the city of Philadelphia to get involved in their civic duty and become leaders here in the city of Philadelphia. And that young man is Anthony Phillips. And so I know that this legislation comes from a place of compassion and a place of caring for our young people. But also I remember about a year ago, we were having a special committee on gun violence hearing, addressing the significant homicides and shootings that were taking place here in the city of Philadelphia. And I remember going home and getting a phone call from one of the guys that I know inside the neighborhood who said, "Hey, Councilman, I know that now that you're an elected official, you're not as close to the streets as you used to be, but I just want to let you know that y'all are getting it all wrong." And I'm like, "What do you mean we're getting it all wrong?" He said, "It's the mask. It's the mask, Councilman. That's why they're getting away with so many homicides. In the streets, they say, no face, no case. No face, no case." And so when I heard about this legislation being introduced, I thought about that conversation that someone pulled me aside from the neighborhood and talked to me about, because they are closer to the streets than I am. They know the shooters, and they know about the homicides and shootings that are taking place. And he said, I know now that you're an elected official, but here's something that you need to understand that's going on day in and day out in our streets. And it's not a coincidence that the homicides and shootings that we've seen started to increase during the pandemic, when we start seeing these masks being worn day in and day out. But then to take it further, since we want to talk about listening to our young people, we also had a special committee on gun violence hearing in the caucus room with young people. and talked about the issue of public safety and gun violence. And so the conversation came up about ski masks, and the young people responded when we asked, why are you wearing a ski mask when it's 90 degrees, 95 degrees, 100 degrees outside? And the response was, because I gotta make sure my ops don't identify me. Well, what are your ops? The opposition, the individuals that you are going back and forth to war with. These are young people, not experts from the University of Pennsylvania, right? These are young people who are telling their lived experiences as it relates to what's going on that they see day in and day out when it comes to the actual wearing of ski masks. And so I have full confidence that our incoming police commissioner, Kevin Bethel, who's not an individual who is going to take a total approach strictly around law enforcement, but we'll look at this issue comprehensively and make sure we're addressing the education standpoint in a public campaign to make sure that young people know that this is coming down the pipeline. But also, Anthony Phillips talks about basically young people just having pride in just who they are, right? And not hiding behind a mask. You shouldn't have to wear a mask to hide yourself because you think somebody's gonna actually kill you. And then last but not least, we will continue as this body that we have done, making historical significant investments and investing in our young people, because yes, we have to make sure that they have necessary support that they need so that you don't have to put on a mask in the first place because you're scared that somebody might identify you, right, who you're going to war with. And so I just want to thank the young Anthony Phillips for his leadership around this issue. I know it's coming from a place of compassion and caring, and probably more than just about anybody inside this body, with the exception of Councilman Isaiah Thomas. Y'all both come from organizing young people to become leaders here in the city of Philadelphia. So I know very well that this was a very thoughtful approach in addressing this issue. Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Ma'am, can you just hold it down, please? Ma'am. Excuse me. All right, you had an opportunity for public comment. Thank you. All right, we'll start all over. Mr. Decker, we start over reading the title of 230-510.
An ordinance amending Chapter 10600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Public Spaces, Prohibited Conduct by prohibiting certain facial coverings from being worn in certain spaces.
Thank you. This bill having been read on 2 different days. The question now, shall the bill pass finally? And Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Nay.
Councilman Driscoll.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gaudier.
Nay.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Harity.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lozada.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilman Phillips.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Councilwoman Vaughn.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. Ayes are 13, the nays are 2. Majority of all members voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, you have any additional resolutions?
A resolution declaring each Friday in December 2023 as Shop Black Business Friday in the city of Philadelphia, introduced today by Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Council President. I move the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring and congratulating the champions of the week, the student and faculty participants of the Philly Service Award of 2023, a high school community service project competition promoting civic involvement, community engagement, and public service, introduced today by Councilman Thomas.
Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing the Philadelphia Housing Authority for their partnership with Zipcar to provide discounted car shares to increase economic mobility for residents of public housing within the city. Introduced today by Councilman Jones and Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones. What do you want?
I move for the adoption along with
You want it,
Councilman
Phil?
Gilmore Richardson.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. That concludes most of our calendar today. The chair recognizes Councilman Jones for a motion to recess.
Mr. President, I
I'm
move
sorry.
that
Councilman, you want to be recognized? Hold on a second, Councilman. Councilman Thomas? Yeah.
Council President, before we make a motion, I just want to announce to the members of the Education Committee, immediately following this council session, we will be jumping on a quick hearing as it relates to the Education Committee. We're going to try to start that hearing at 1:45 p.m., and the hearing should not last too long. I will send a text message out with details to all of the members of the Education Committee. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you for that housekeeping issue. Councilwoman Vaughn?
Thank you, Council President. Just a quick comment, or I will not be able to go home today. Today is my husband's, Kevin Vaughn's, birthday. If we could just wish Kevin happy birthday.
That's a heck of an incentive to make sure that we get this business done. Councilor Squilla?
Thank you, Mr. President. I know we'll be coming back after recess, but I'd just like to take the opportunity to highlight December as the National Small Business Month and encourage everyone to shop at our small businesses throughout the month of December. Small businesses employ approximately 60 million people throughout the country, and 70% of every dollar spent in our local small businesses is recirculated within the surrounding communities. Now more than ever, it's important to recognize and encourage, support our local small businesses, especially during the holiday season. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Again, I recognize Councilman Jones for a motion to recess.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we and council stand at recess until the completion of the business of the Committee on Appropriation, which will convene at 3 p.m. today.
I guess, second, thank you. It's been moved and second that council stand at recess until the completion of the public meeting of the Committee on Appropriation was scheduled to convene at 3 p.m. today. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries. The council will stand at recess until the completion of the public meeting of the Committee on Appropriation.